born in the other side of Manchester, in Ashton-under-Lyne, moved to Bury when I was 12, 13 and lived there till about 14 years ago as a science teacher. And when I had a nervous breakdown about 15 years ago, I decided to move back into arts and crafts and things like that, which I wanted to do when I was 17, but my mum said I had to get a proper job. I now do needle felt art. Basically, I paint with felt, usually landscapes, inspired by Lancashire, Cumbria, landscapes, hills, mountains, sheep. And I work on the assumption that a picture, it will take me about an hour per square inch to actually make it into fabric, to make it into a piece of fabric. What you get is the fleece from a sheep, you wash it, get rid of all the gubbins, card it so it's nice and flat, and then I dye it into all different colours, quite often using natural dyes if I can. Then you dry it. You have to make sure you don't put it too hot before you get past that, otherwise you've already felted your wool. And then what I do is I lie it out into a landscape, different bits, different colours, and you have a series of different types of barb needles, different thicknesses, different shapes, different sizes of barbs, and you needle it. As you put it in, it slides in like an arrow, and as you're pulling it out, the barbs twist the wool round each other so they mesh together. So you're making an actual mesh. You just do that into your picture, and then you can decorate on top of that. So a 4-inch by 5-inch picture would probably take you 20 to 25 hours to make. I don't even really know how I started doing it. A lot of people do the little animals and things like that, and that just doesn't do it for me. It's got to be landscapes. I think that's therapy. Beautiful greens and hills and trees and flowers and skies and things. I also live right facing Darwin Tower, so when I open my curtains, I've got that view in effect. So I think that's part of it. But I don't know, I've seen there's 2 or 3 other people now doing it. A lot of people do wet felting, which is a completely different process altogether, where you have to roll it, and that doesn't do it for me. It's only, I don't know whether I imagine people's faces when I'm stabbing it and whether that's the therapy of it, I don't know, but I'm just addicted to it. I spend probably about 40 hours a week in some capacity making needle felt pictures. I came to the community living room by just noticing an advert in the paper the night before, and it didn't give me enough time to panic about coming. And there was me and about 4 or 5 other people there on that first occasion. We did lampshade making, and it was really good. So I went off to tell some other people in a craft group that I belonged to, and the next week we all turned up. And it's gone on from there for the last nearly 12 months now, and it's really good. It gets us all out. A lot of us do know each other anyway, but a lot of other people have come into it and have joined our other craft group by being in the community living room and being in the library. People wander around the library looking for a library book or come in with grandchildren and say to us, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then they turn up the next week. You do different things most weeks. And it gives you a chance to try them. If you don't like them, you don't do it again. If you do like them, you go on and do it. Lucy did a group on rag rugging, and one of our group has gone on from that, and she's an avid rag rugger. She never stops. She's addicted to it. Now, I've not personally grabbed onto anything like that because I do my felt, but I do enjoy doing the other things, the different things. The hard part is taking that first step and getting to the group. Once you've got to the group, there'll be somebody there who is willing to teach you how to do something. And we have one lady, a Chinese lady who came. She could hardly speak English and she couldn't crochet. And somebody, that first lesson, lent her a hook and some wool. And within about 6 weeks, she's making bags and shawls and blankets. And she's well away. Her English is getting better, and she's really enjoying what she's doing, and she's really good at it. And then she went on to YouTube, and that developed her even further. But it's that first step, and that's a really hard step, is getting yourself out the door and walking into a group where you're going to feel that everybody else might know each other and you don't. I think any sort of a craft, any way of working with your hands is good for mental health. a lot of people knit and got back into knitting, and I did knitting to start off with, and crochet and these sort of things, or art, anything. I think where you're taking yourself or your mind out of its situation and you're going into something where you're creating something, nurturing in a way, if you like. Same with gardening. It's just a matter of getting your head out of its problems and moving on to something you're thinking about. And I say, I suffered a lot from depression. I do think that is what you need to do. You need to get into something, and it doesn't matter whether you do it on your own or not. Going to meet other people, when you do something, you do talk. We have a group, and quite often we'll sit there and we'll take something to do, some sort of a craft, and we sit there and we talk. And we could be there for 3 hours and nobody's actually knitted a stitch or anything. But it's the fact that having your knitting in your hand, or your crochet, or your whatever, your tapestry, just means that if you want to just get out of the conversation slightly, you can do something. So it's not like therapy where you've got a counsellor and they're asking you questions. It's, I suppose, a comfort blanket in a way. And that's probably the main way to put it. It's a comfort blanket.